He started a fight in class. The Deathworld girl ended it without mercy. Brand's plated fist cut through empty air hard enough to wake the floor alarms. Rhea Calder moved less than the width of her own shoe. Her left foot was wrong. It pointed beside Brand's hip, not toward the exit. Ilo Dask's hand hovered over the override as the slate ring flashed red. The human Deathworld girl stood inside Brand's reach while the safety clock showed 80 seconds. That morning, the class expected Sci to end the fight. Instead, Rhea would end it without mercy for Brand's certainty. Ilo's lesson would break with it. Then Rhea stepped toward Brand. No raised fists, no backward step, no panic. Keep your eye on Rhea's open hands. Before this lesson was over, what she refused to do would matter more than anything Brand tried. Earlier that morning, Vector Hall had been quiet enough for Ilo to hear the slate ring settling under the floor. He stood at the instructor console and loaded the day's lesson on unequal opponents. The hall was built for fast changes. Seats climbed in a wide circle around the hidden training floor. When a lesson turned physical, the center could drop, lock, and become a controlled spar space. Ilo liked the room because it made theory hard to hide behind. A student could argue about reach, force, or speed from a seat. A few minutes later, the floor could ask whether the argument survived contact. His class entered in small groups. Most opened hollow notes before sitting down. Rhea Calder carried paper. Ilo noticed because almost no one did that at Asterlock. Her notebook was narrow, slate blue, and held shut by a black elastic strap. She sat near the middle row, pulled the strap free, and wrote the date by hand while the rest of the room filled with floating screens. Nothing about her looked ready for a fight. That was the easy reading. The harder detail was how little space she wasted. Her bag went beneath the seat where it could not catch her feet. Her chair stayed square to the aisle. When a broad cadet passed too close behind her, Rhea moved her elbow before the cadet touched it, then kept writing as if she had done nothing at all. Ilo marked attendance and told himself he was noticing habits because that was his job. Then Brand Turk arrived. The Celt cadet did not need to push anyone aside. His size made space for him. Dense plates covered his shoulders and chest, and his long arms gave him an easy reach over most species in the hall. When he sat, the chair frame gave a small metal complaint. Brand had a reputation for treating measured advantage as settled fact. If a contest could be reduced to mass, reach, armor, or speed, he trusted the larger number. Ilo had corrected him before. Brand listened politely, then kept winning enough practice bouts to believe the corrections were academic. That morning, Ilo decided to make the point harder to ignore. He brought a simple diagram onto the main display. A large figure faced a smaller one on an empty field. Visible advantage predicts the opening, Ilo said. It does not promise the finish. Brand's wrist plates made a sharp clack. Several students turned before he spoke. If the smaller body cannot survive the opening, Brand said, the finish is already decided. Ilo leaned one hand on the console. Only if the smaller fighter accepts the opening you prepared. Brand gave him the patient look of someone, allowing a teacher to finish being wrong. That sounds good in a lecture. A few cadets laughed. Rhea kept writing. Ilo saw her make a short line in the notebook, pause, then add something beneath it. No smile, no frown, no sign that Brand's tone had reached her at all. Brand noticed the same thing and seemed to dislike it. You disagree, human. Rhea looked up. Her eyes moved to Brand's hands, then his shoulders, then his face. About which part? More laughter, quieter this time. Brand turned in his seat. The part where size stops being theory when something larger hits you. Rhea glanced down at her notebook, as though checking whether she had missed a line of the lecture. I think that depends on whether it hits me. The room changed by a small degree. Ilo felt it before anyone moved. Students who had been half listening put their screens down. Bran's shoulders rose. Rhea simply capped her pen. There it was, Ilo thought. Not a threat, not even a challenge, just a question left where Bran could step on it. He should have moved the lesson on. Instead, he asked, Calder, explain. Rhea folded her hands over the notebook. If the larger opponent needs direct contact, then contact is part of his plan. Why would the smaller one give him the exact exchange he wants? Bran answered before Ilo could. Because eventually, there is nowhere else to go. His wrist plates clacked again. Rhea's gaze dropped for a moment. It was such an ordinary little motion that Ilo almost missed the way her feet had shifted under the desk. Then the useful question is how long eventually takes. Bran stood. The chair scraped hard across the floor. That was the provocation, not the standing itself, but the choice to turn a class problem into a public test of who belonged in the room. Bran stepped into the aisle and faced Rhea. You have no armor, no reach, and nowhere useful to stand. Rhea looked at him, then at the space between them. Then you shouldn't have trouble finding me. Silence hit harder than the laughter had. Ilo's neck fans tightened against his skin. He knew Bran's mistake because Bran had just stated it in plain words. Weakness. Smaller body meant lower force. Lower force meant less control. Less control meant loss. It was a useful model, right up, until the other person refused to play the role assigned to them. Ilo turned the main display away from the simple diagram and opened Asterlock's entry-level mismatch data. 44% of severe mass imbalance bouts require instructor stoppage, he said. That does not prove Bran's claim. It proves unequal contests become unsafe when students force them into simple tests of power. Bran did not sit. Then let us make it safe. Rhea's expression did not change. Ilo looked from one cadet to the other. He could end the exchange with a word. Part of him wanted to. Another part recognized that every student in Vector Hall was now waiting on the same question. Would adaptation still matter when the size gap was standing in front of them? Controlled demonstration, Ilo said, nothing more. Bran smiled. Rhea raised a hand. Ilo's neck fans loosened a fraction. Yes. Do you want the floor on full safety? The question was so practical that several students blinked. Bran gave a low sound that might have been a laugh. Ilo answered, of course. Good. That was all. Rhea bent down, slid the black elastic around her notebook, and tucked her pen beneath it. She carried the little book to Ilo's console instead of leaving it under the seat. Can I put this here? Ilo stared at the notebook for half a beat. Yes. Thanks. She set it beside his hand like a student leaving homework with a teacher. The cover had a worn corner. A thin strip of paper marked a page near the back. As Rhea turned away, the book opened just enough for Ilo to glimpse compact lines and small shapes drawn in dark ink. Not equations. Positions. He could not make sense of them before the cover fell shut. The center of Vector Hall lowered with a soft mechanical hum. Seats drew back from the edge. The slate ring rose into place, flat and dark, while the motion lattice painted a faint grid above it. Warm polymer and ozone reached Ilo as the safety system came online. Bran stepped onto the ring first. The floor adjusted under his weight with a deep vibration. Rhea followed without ceremony. No stretch, no bounce on her feet, no attempt to make herself look larger. She stopped across from Bran and waited while Ilo entered the conditions. Instructional contact only, Ilo said. No deliberate joint damage. No strikes to vulnerable sensory organs. The lattice will slow prohibited acceleration. I can end the bout at any point. Bran rolled one shoulder. Rhea looked down at the floor grid. Ilo expected nerves to arrive now. The human had been calm while seated, calm while speaking, calm while walking into the ring. That could still be social control. Many species showed fear only after the body understood that a threat had become immediate. The wall monitor gave him Rhea's pulse. It had barely moved. Ilo checked the sensor contact. Good. He checked it again. Still good. For the first time that morning, unease replaced professional interest. Brand saw none of it. He was watching Rhea's size, her bare hands, and the gap he believed his reach already owned. "You can still return to your seat," he said. Rhea glanced toward Ilo's console. Not at Ilo. At the slate-blue notebook. Then she looked back at Bran. "I left my notes over there," she said, "so I probably should come back eventually." Someone in the upper row made a choking sound and turned it into a cough. Bran's plates clacked once more. Ilo raised his hand between them. He had run controlled demonstrations for years. He knew the signs that came before reckless contact: tight shoulders, fixed eyes, shallow breath, a fighter staring at the target instead of the whole space. Bran showed nearly all of them. Rhea showed none. That should have reassured Ilo. It did not. "Begin on my mark," he said. Bran lowered his center of mass. Rhea let her arms hang loose. Ilo's hand started down. Only then did he see where the human was looking. Not at Bran's fists. At his shoulders. Ilo did not open the restricted record. He locked the student display instead. "Clear the ring." The senior monitors moved first. Bran stepped off without protest. Rhea followed, took her water from the side rail, and drank while the slate ring sank beneath the floor. No one in Vector Hall spoke. Ilo waited until the safety grid vanished. Then he turned the class display black. Lesson suspended. Bran looked at Rhea, then at the floor where she had put him down. "Because of me. Because I need facts before I teach from them." Rhea screwed the cap onto her bottle. "That sounds fair." Ilo sent the class to the adjacent methods room with the senior monitors. Bran started to follow. "Stay." Bran stopped. Rhea stayed without being asked. When the door sealed, Vector Hall became small again. 3 people, 1 dark display, 1 worn notebook beside Ilo's console. Ilo turned the student screen toward Rhea. "Your record is restricted. I will not open the sealed section." "You have a question," she said. "Were you trained for this?" Rhea took another drink. "Yes." The answer landed without drama. "What kind of training?" "Protective response." The term opened a limited public summary. The visible header named an Earth unit assigned to keep civilian officials alive during unstable security work. Ilo read the duty line once. Positioning, threat reading, restraint, extraction. The public portion held 1 citation. Liaison Nessa Vale had returned to her staff after Rhea got her through a failed evacuation corridor. No hero language, just the outcome. The same skills had filled the ring. Bran stepped closer. "You were security." "Sometimes." "You fought people for work." Rhea's gaze dipped in that small way Ilo had seen before ordinary answers. "Mostly I stopped fights before they became fights." Bran looked toward the hidden ring. The chair placement, the clear aisle, the way Rhea watched hands, shoulders, feet, exits, none of it needed explanation now. Ilo opened Asterlock's human security entry. Class 11, Hostile Environment Adaptation Protocols. Bran read the line. "That was on file." "Yes." "And we still listed her as low risk for close instruction." Ilo felt the question land where it belonged. Asterlock had read the classification as survival data: heat, gravity, air, stress. It had never asked what kind of habits a hostile world gave someone whose job was keeping other people alive. The failure was not hidden in Rhea's record. It was in how the Institute had read it. A knock came from the side door. One monitor leaned in. "Medical is ready." Bran flexed his shoulder. "I'm fine." "That is not your call," Ilo said. Rhea nodded toward the door. "Go." Bran frowned at her. "You do not order me." "No, medical does." For the first time that morning, Bran smiled without trying to win. Then he went. Ilo pulled the restraint report onto the console. Rhea leaned against a desk. "You're going to ask, how many of those dangerous openings did you see?" Most. One was bad. For you. For him." Ilo's hand stopped above the display. "The angle was unstable," Rhea added. No boast, no threat. She spoke about the discarded move like a student correcting a bad step in a drill. Ilo closed the red branches. "Why did you keep refusing them?" Rhea frowned slightly. "Because stopping him was the assignment. And hurting him wasn't." Ilo sat. His report template waited beside the student file. The old objective still read physical advantage under asymmetric conditions. He deleted it. Rhea picked up her notebook and straightened the paper marker. "You need a new title." "I need a better lesson." "That too." Ilo typed adaptation control and selected TRMS. A few minutes later, Bran returned with a green medical strip across one shoulder. "No treatment needed," the monitor said. "Strain only." Ilo dismissed the monitor. Bran stood across from Rhea. "You had openings." Rhea waited. "I saw the report. I figured. You could have hurt me." "Yes." The word did not soften. Bran's jaw shifted. "But you didn't." "No." "Why?" Rhea tapped the notebook against her palm. "You were trying to prove a point in class. So that isn't a reason to wreck your shoulder." Bran looked down at the medical strip. Then back at her. "I called you weak." "You did." "I was wrong." "Yes." Rhea opened her notebook and checked her pen. Bran let out a slow breath. "I am apologizing. I know. You could make this easier. You started the difficult version." His mouth twitched. Bran moved to Ilo's console. "Put my concession in the report." "That is standard." "Not the bout concession." Ilo stopped typing. Bran faced him. "I treated size as proof of control. It was." Rhea's pen paused. Bran continued. "I thought her refusal to strike meant she had nothing. It meant she was choosing. He had the reach. He had the mass. She had the choice." Ilo entered the statement. The class returned after the medical check. Students filed into Vector Hall more quietly than they had left it. Ilo did not restart the demonstration. He brought the original lesson diagram onto the main display. The large figure still faced the smaller one. Then he removed the line that ranked visible force as the first predictor of control. Bran took his old seat. Rhea sat where she had started, notebook open. "This morning's model was incomplete," Ilo said. Nobody laughed. "Physical advantage remains real. So does the ability to deny the terms that make it useful." Bran raised a hand. "I want my earlier claim removed from the lesson record." "You cannot remove something you said." "Then mark it wrong." Ilo marked it. The same students who had laughed at Rhea now watched her without mockery. She noticed the attention, drew her notebook closer, and went back to writing. She still had homework. Ilo opened the curriculum amendment. Asterlock's old course had taught mass, reach, natural protection, and speed as the main visible advantages. He left them in place. Then he added what the lesson had lacked: Control would be graded separately from force. Restraint would count as skill. Students would have to show that they could end a threat without using more force than the situation required. Bran read the draft. That would have lowered my score today. Yes. Good. Rhea looked up. Mine too. Bran turned. How? I let you get annoyed. A few students laughed. This time Bran did too. The lesson ended late. Students gathered their things, but Bran stayed beside Rhea's row. Calder. She looked up. If we train again, proper conditions. Meaning? No audience. Good start. And you tell me when I make the shoulder mistake. Rhea closed the notebook. I can tell you before. Before I do it. You announce it. With what? Your shoulders. Bran stood very still. One wrist plate clicked. Rhea looked at it. That too. He stared at his own arm, then walked away. Ilo opened the final review panel. The Academy system had generated a recommendation from the restraint report. Reclassify training assumption, human tactical transfer. Not a danger label. A correction to the Institute. Ilo approved it. The new notice would appear beneath future human transfer records. Do not infer low combat control from low visible mass or an unarmed posture. Review adaptive and restraint history before assigning capability. It was colder than praise. It was more useful too. Rhea came down the steps toward his console. My notebook. Ilo looked at it beside the scanner. May I copy part of it for the revised course archive? Her eyebrows rose. How much? The stance pages, the recovery notes, nothing personal. Rhea flipped through the book. Some pages held small diagrams like the one Ilo had seen. Others held class notes, grocery reminders, and reading assignments. She stopped near the middle. These. Ilo placed the notebook on the scanner. The machine asked for a document name. He entered Adaptive Control Field Notes, CALDER. Rhea read it upside down. That sounds expensive. It is a file name. Still. A bar of light passed over the paper. Bran stopped at the door. You are putting her notes in the archive. With permission. Can students read them? After review. He looked at Rhea. May I? She considered him. After you stop trying to win arguments with your shoulders. Bran nodded once. Fair. The scanner finished. Ilo handed the notebook back. For most of the morning, it had looked out of place among Asterlock's hollow screens. Now the Academy had made a formal copy of it. The worn corner was still worn. The black elastic still had a pale stretch mark. Rhea still had to push the pen beneath it twice because the first try missed. She checked the last page. A half-finished assignment sat beneath the tactical sketches. You're doing coursework in the same book? Ilo asked. Rhea gave him the tiny downward glance. I told you I needed it back. Ilo turned to the last field in his report. Lesson outcome. He typed, initial capability model rejected. Below it, he added one instructor note. Restraint can hide skill better than weakness can fake it. He left the sentence there. Rhea slid the notebook into her bag. Bran held the door open as she approached. She stopped beside him. Your shoulder okay? Yes. Good. Bran let her pass first. The hall emptied behind them. Ilo shut down the slate ring. The dark floor sealed over the place where Bran had conceded. On the main display, the revised human training notice settled beneath Rhea Calder's name. Her copied field notes finished uploading to the course archive. At the doorway, the slate blue notebook disappeared into Rhea's bag. The black elastic snapped softly into place. On Ilo's report, one line remained under the completed lesson. He started a fight in class. The Deathworld girl ended it without mercy.